In this video, we're going to be looking at finding percents of numbers with number lines. So let's find out how to model percents using a number line. We're going to start out by looking at a typical number line. Normally, we just show numbers on there. In this case, we're going to show percents. So 0% of 0 is 0. If we had a number to compare this to, we could look at maybe like 100% of the number, which would be the whole number itself, half the number, 25%. We'll look at different percentages. We're going to start out with the number 50. So if we draw a number line and then begin labeling 0 and 100%, we know that 50% of whatever number we're talking about, in this case 50, would be halfway or in the middle between 0 and 100. So I've started out by labeling that 0% of 50 is 0, and 100% of the number 50 is just that number, 50. So I haven't put what 50% would be yet. But if we know that to find 50% of something, we basically divide it into two parts. I know that 50 divided by 2 is 25. In this slide, I'm going to look and think of what 25% of a number might be and 75% of a number. If I know half of the number 50 is 25, so 50% of 50 is 25, then I can think about what 25% of that number might be. So if I took the number 25, which is half of 50, and divided it into two parts, I would get 12 and 5/10, which I'm going to show on this line. Now, if I wanted to find what 75% of the number could be, I could add that 12 and 5/10 to my half, which is 25, and get 37 and 5/10. So you see on this number line how we've divided the number 50 into four parts, basically, and shown how much is in each part. So what is 50% of 50? 25. And what's 25% of 50? 12 and 5/10. In this example, we're going to use the number 70, and we're going to divide our number line into tenths. So we start out by taking our number line, labeling 0 and 0%, labeling 100% and our number that we're talking about, which is 70, and then dividing it into 10 equal sections. If I took the number 70 and divided it by 10, I would get 7. So I know that there's 7 in each 10% part of my number. As you can see, I've labeled it on there. Basically, I'm counting by sevens. So if we asked a question of what is 10% of 70, I would have 7. What is 60%? Well, that's a 10% section times 6. So 60% of 70 is 42. If I wanted to go a little further and find what 5% or 15% of 70 might be, I can take one of my 10% sections and divide it in half to find 5%. So if 10% of the number 70 is 7, 5% is 3 and 5/10. I took the number 7 and divided it in half to give me two 5% sections. If I wanted to know what 15% was, I can then add my 3.5% part, my 5% part in other words, to my 10% part, because 10% plus 5% would equal 15%. And I would get 10 and 5/10. Let's look at a different number. So let's look at the number 240. I might start out on a number line by putting 0% of 240, which is 0, and 100% of 240, which is 240. That's that number itself. Might then want to start out by putting 50% on there, since I know that 240 divided into two 50% parts would be 120 in each part. As you can see, I've marked 50% on my line. I then went and divided my two 50% sections in half, showing 25%, which is 60, and 75%, which is 180. I then went to my 25% part and divided it into 5 parts of 5%. So you can see 5% of the number 240 is 12, 10% would be 24, 15% would be 36, and it's not shown on there, but 20% of that number would be 48, and then 25% is 60. So if I wanted to find 55% of the number 240, I can take my 50%, which is 120, plus 5%, which is 12, and add those two together and show that it's 132. So we've asked some of those questions on this slide, and you see how we got our answers. Number lines can be really helpful in finding percents of numbers, using it for some problem solving, and estimating. Thanks.